So on that note, I would like to introduce the Marlborough team, or as they call themselves, the M team. I think Darby is, Darby's gonna
Eva
share.
is going to share.
Yeah, great.
Hello, my name is Carlos Arceabrego. I'm a resident of Marlborough, and I want to thank you all for attending this presentation. And I have the pleasure to introduce my team and our project to you. Our presentation is a community-based strategy to ensure Marlborough catwalks are used and enjoyed to their full potential. The next slide, please. Fear. We want to eliminate the fear that might prevent residents from using the catwalks. Even if people believe that they have an asset, when they are not being used, this asset loses its value. Next one. Some of you might not be familiar with the term of catwalk as being used in our presentation, but a catwalk is simply a shortcut pathway that leads connectivity into important places such as schools, parks, roadways, and others. So it is just a walkway. Next one, please. Well, our project was led by 3 residents of Marlborough, Roxana, Carla, and I, and by 4 university students, Darby, Diva, Martina, and Dimitri. And of course, it was supported by the Safegrowth team, the Calgary Police, and the 12 community CSI, the Community Safety Initiative. Next, please. The project actually included extensive field work in Marlborough. This comprised site visits, interviews, safety audits, and from all that, we got all the vital information that is being used in this presentation. And as you can see, the presentation is structured into 5 steps. I'm going to introduce the first one, which is our vision. Next one, please. Oh, and the other one. Our general vision is to create in Marlborough active movement within their pathways, where residents have a sense of friendship, freedom, pride, and ownership. Next one. And we believe that specifically, we see mobility, safety, and cohesion as being an essential part of this vision, where residents can move, and as they move through the community using those pathways, they feel connectivity, comfort, inclusion, and unity. And now Darby will continue with the project scope and problem identification.
Hello, everybody. My name is Darby. So with these key themes in our back pocket, we embraced the Safe Growth, Small is Beautiful approach and honed in on the southwest quadrant within the community of Marlborough. So this quadrant specifically caught our attention due to the connectivity it has with the Marlborough Mall and LRT station. So residents identified these locations as assets within the community. So we determined that movement to and from them would be key movement within the area. So the specific catwalks that we selected varied in length and size, which allowed for a well-rounded compare and contrast opportunity. Additionally, some of the catwalks we selected were previously studied in other community research initiatives, and this helped with gathering background information. Next slide. So building on the previous work, some of the previous work done within the catwalk system in Marlborough was headed by a local initiative called Sustainable Calgary. This research collected lots of information during their project that helped formulate a resource called the Reimagined Catwalks Playbook. So this was created to help communities activate their own catwalk systems by cultivating fun and enjoyable spaces. We noticed that we were in a unique position because we could build on their fantastic work through the Safe Growth lens. And with that determination, we began our problem identification phase and got out into the community. So we first started by looking at the crime increase. Site visits and interviews noted that consistent concerns about crime and disorder were occurring. So for these reasons, we gathered crime data to identify whether this fear was a reality. So with the help of Constable Ray Hosland and with the Calgary Police Department, we determined that there was no specific data available for the catwalks themselves in terms of crime, but there was an abundance of neighborhood level statistics that showcased a 26.4% increase in crime rates within the last 8 years. So this connects to our vision as it impacts the desire to have a community that's low crime and comfortable and welcoming. Next slide. So for image and maintenance, so next we identified through site interviews and visits an inconsistency across the catwalk network in terms of maintenance of visual flaws such as litter, graffiti, long grass, and other damages such as fence deterioration. This makes the catwalks less approachable and reduces the level of welcome for a user. Next slide. Entrapment areas. So throughout our site visits and safety audits, we identified many locations of entrapment. So these easy to hide areas were found in various places such as behind fences that lead to parks, within alleyways, and even in parking lots within the condominium. These locations reduce the feeling of safety and comfortability for the user and also creates opportunities for crime and disorder to occur. So connectivity and wayfinding. During our site visits, although we had an aerial photo of the community to use as a guide, we often had difficulty navigating around the catwalk network. There was such inconsistency between catwalk barriers, which were either wooden or metal, and reduced our ability to identify catwalk entrance from afar. So site interviews identified that the people that use them most frequently know the system due to years and years in use. The point is that if people don't know where they're going, they will most likely refrain from using it. Natural surveillance. So in terms of eyes on the street, we noticed that there was various locations that impeded on the level of visibility. Site visits notified high fences that bordered the catwalks, and safety audits identified an overall lack of lighting, which left the network dark and unwelcoming. So territoriality, we also identified during our site visits and safety audits that it's really isn't obvious who has the responsibility to maintain these catwalks. There is a divide between residents and the City of Calgary, where the City of Calgary believes that the onus is on the homeowner to continue with maintenance, and the residents are, as Sustainable Calgary puts it, unaware, unable, or unwilling. This uncertainty impacts the ownership over the catwalks and reduces unity. So the traffic interface. When exiting and entering catwalks that border roadways, we found that through site visits and interviews that there's an extreme danger for pedestrians or cyclists due to blind crosswalks. In addition to the high speed of vehicular traffic, this risk of collision is extremely high due to lack of overall awareness and visibility. Tripping hazards. So our site visits also identified many fragments of the catwalk network with unmaintained pathways in terms of broken pavement or locations with remnants of old metal posts. So these, in addition to absence of curb cuts for an easy transition from roadway to sidewalk, moves this network away from being a smooth movement corridor. And winter conditions, Calgary is a winter city, and this means that we get lots of snow that needs to be maintained. And since the responsibility for maintenance within the catwalks isn't confirmed for every party, dangerous snow and ice conditions exist within the network. This makes for difficult movement, especially because it gets darker early within winter months. And movement predictors. So it's relatively simple for an onlooker to determine the movement of a user within the catwalk network, as the catwalks are oriented in a linear corridor. So site visits identified that there's only one way in and one way out of each catwalk, and site interviews showcased that this causes a little bit of discomfort for users as it increases their fear for safety.
Thank you, Darby. Now, I'm Dimitri, and I'll take us from the what to the why and the how. So discussing inconsistency of maintenance, comparing Marlborough to the rest of Calgary, there's many seniors in the area and many renters too. So seniors may be less able to clear the snow, but it's more important that it's cleared for them to keep them safe from fall injuries. As far as renters, it could mean more turnover and less connectedness with the community. And there's the added complexity of with a landlord of who is obligated to maintain the catwalks. And there's just less incentive to sort of go above and beyond with investment and care. Looking more at natural surveillance, the lighting is pretty bad. And so it's okay, well, so what? Does that need to change? Residents expressed that they would like it to change, but they also expressed concerns of lighting it up too much and lighting into people's homes. But part of it too is just the height of the fences, and high trees can inhibit light, as well as even the color of the fences. If you look in the bottom right, there's a huge difference between white and dark fences for how light it feels, and also just being able to see people or objects against the fence. The other consideration, though, is that dark fences are better graffiti deterrents. So there's sort of this and that. In terms of sight lines, the geometry and lighting is totally different at night during the day and can create these create or enhance entrapment areas. So you see in the top right for the traffic interface, we looked at the fences and how it's sort of stepped down towards the street. We found that that was really great because it helps pedestrians and vehicles see each other as someone is coming out while maintaining access control and territoriality. However, there are none of those in the alley interface. And as we noted, high traffic speeds, it's because the alleys and the roads are both so wide open that it encourages fast vehicle use. Additionally, very few crosswalks are marked, as well as vehicles may not be expecting pedestrians to come out mid-block, especially from behind parked cars or foliage. So the gates are supposed to slow people as they come up to the road interface, but the gates inhibit strollers and bikes, and you can tell from looking at the ground that people try and walk around them as much as they can. So it's also putting the wrong message of it's the pedestrian's responsibility to watch out for the car. And additionally that each traffic interface, there are no ramps or curb cuts anywhere. So analyzing cohesion more so, this is our Marlborough asset map, various locations that represent social and other aspects that are connected by the road network and the catwalk network. And also beyond that, there's the social landscape. And one asset of Marlborough is that there are many longtime residents with a deep, rich history and many connections within the community. We found that the urban form really matters for wayfinding. Marlborough isn't a conventional grid, neither is it totally suburban and filled with cul-de-sacs or anything like that. It's sort of in the middle. So this grants moderate network legibility and directness, but you still might come out at some strange T intersections and you can still get sort of turned around.
Sorry, I was on mute. I didn't realize that. Thank you, Dimitri. Hello, everyone. My name is Diba, and I'll be taking over from this part and then back to Dimitri. So we came up with 5 different strategies, and the first one was to light it right. So we thought about adding solar-powered fence lights on the exterior of the lights with different patterns, which would make it colorful and fun. And the spacing is going to be consistent across all the catwalk. So that means whoever is using that catwalk, they're going to experience this active, low risk, low crime, and united feeling. The second one is culture from the community. So using the idea of reimagined catwalks playbook strategies, we came up with the idea that we need to make this it a community-led activation and connect with the local, prioritizing the unique placemaking, which means that we are emphasizing on introducing the idea of friendliness, inclusive, and welcoming. The third strategy is smoothing things out. So it means that the convenient movement requires maintained physical conditions. So it means we need to remove the tripping hazard, introduce consistent use of wooden poles, and curb cut that double the size. And during winter times, we need to make sure that everything is maintained properly, it's consistent, and we need to make a collaboration with the Calgary Marlborough Community Association. The fourth one is soft traffic calming, which means that we need to reduce the high-speed traffic by introducing crosswalk safety planners, traffic calming curbs, and speed warning tools, which means signing lights and reflectors, and also we can crossings. And the last one is Wayfound. So create convenient opportunities for people to learn the catwalk network and wayfinding resources using catwalk network map, arrows to key landmark, paint and signage, and I'm sorry, I'm a bit sleepy. Identifiable entrances, which will allow people to connect and stay active.
Thank you, Diva. Now that we've looked at our strategies, it's time to imagine what it would look like for their being put to action. So immediately, while the warm months persist, would be a perfect time to collect more data, expand scope, map more of Marlborough for crosswalks, tripping hazards, everything like that, and just some initial program building. Because before we know it, it'll be November again and snowing. So any snow removal program will have to be up and running. But the winter is actually the perfect time to engage people and design and make a budget and fundraise for that budget. So come May, you are ready to implement with your residents. And you also have plans and everything in place to advise and direct the city on your priorities, because that's their construction season too. And then beyond that, after implementing, is the time to recollect data and see if what you did had an impact. So, and after that point, you can expand and just reevaluate and rebuild, because a community is never finished being built. But we are finished our presentation. So we thank you, and we'll be happy to take questions.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you, Team M. Great, I love how playful your project is, so it's great. So do we have any questions from the public? Any questions, comments, anything is welcome. Anne, please.
Did you, excuse me, how many people use those catwalks? Have you any idea?
Yeah, that would sort of be one thing we could do as a next step, is set up pedestrian counts to get a better sense. From the Calgary's broader demographic data, Marlborough is pretty standard for people who sort of like walk or bike to work, but a lot of more people, 25% more people take transit to work, and so presumably they're walking. Well, a lot of people would be walking to the train, and so you are walking from your house to the train. And so it would be, we know people are walking throughout the neighborhood. During the day, we saw people of all sorts walking through the catwalks. So anecdotally, people are definitely using them during the day, but we didn't see hardly anyone using them at night. And so it'd be good to get some quantified data too.
Yeah, like you said, it never ends, right? Working with the community and building community, and so the data collection also never ends, because you kind of have to keep checking how we're going and collecting new data, because the environment changes. So, okay, any other questions or comments?
Hi.
Please feel free to speak up. Yeah.
I think John does.
Go ahead.
Just wondering, I didn't catch your whole presentation. Was a C train stop nearby? Is it on your asset map?
I believe it was on our asset map, but yes, it's very close by. It's right beside the Marlborough Mall.
Okay.
But we did identify from our residents that that was a key location for movement. So definitely was an asset. And that's why we chose the Southwest Quadrant, just because it had this great relationship between that, I guess, node. So.
Great. I thought it was really well done.
Thank you.
So this is where the LRT station is.
Cool.
Just to expand on it, the catwalk actually leads into the Marlborough Mall. So a lot of people use it to go to the mall, especially within the southwest quadrant of the neighborhood. And then people might go to the LRT and vice versa, coming from the LRT to the mall and then using the catwalk to get to the places.
Is the mall always open? Do they have to go around the mall sometimes?
No, they can cross the mall. So usually it's, they usually opens at 9 p.m. Now with the pandemic, the hours have changed a little bit, but normally it's till 9 p.m. and people can cross the mall. Yeah.
Alert from reminders.
Okay, just in respect of time, if there's any final questions or comments.
Just one thought for me. It's Greg here, everybody. A quick one, because y'all know I tend to go on a bit too long. The thing about this walkway business is that it's a different character of problem than others you see with neighborhood development or planning or safe growth. Like the first one where you had a hub and you could spread the love out by getting folks together, working cohesively, get programming. Walkways and these these movements, movement predictors is what we call them in safe growth. They present a unique problem because they cross many communities. And in the car-driven city, usually those walkways are an afterthought that you stick behind properties. So they represent a unique problem in urban design and in safety. And I applaud you. I didn't say this earlier in the month about how difficult this kind of a project is, because I thought you could do a great job, and sure enough you did. But it is difficult to get these walkways connected together and to get them working well. But on the other hand, one comment I'll make is at a time of COVID, you're seeing more people are outside, and here in Denver anyway, we're actually shutting streets down to get people to be more walkable. So this is a very important topic. No real question, but this is a very important topic, and I encourage you to continue your work on this kind of a thing, because this is our future.
Can I also ask a question? Thank you very much, team. That was an awesome presentation. You talked a little bit about the fences. I thought that was really interesting how you analyzed that in detail in terms of height, but then specifically also in terms of color. Did you look into that a little bit more? I thought, the lighting was a neat idea, but how about just painting it? You talked about graffiti and stuff. Could graffiti be a positive in terms of making those catwalks a bit more lively?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Are you sure? Okay. Well, actually, one of the residents that we work with, Carlos, was saying that before there was a lot bigger of issue with graffiti, and it's reduced a lot lately. But when he initially said that, I thought it could be a placemaking tool and use it as an advantage, maybe within the system. But we did notice that there was white painted fences that really brighten up the area at night, even when it was completely dark. We could see like shadows from the trees and stuff on them. So that's what we've kind of come up with in terms of painting. I think Dimitri, you could.
Yeah, and like the painting can go hand in hand with the activation. So we could have youth in the area painting the fences a mural, and if they use really light colors too, then you're really checking all the boxes. So then it's placemaking, it's light, it's
Yeah, it is community involvement at the same time, because I remember Larry did something like that in Crossroads. Didn't you paint the electric boxes or something with the birds subjects?
Yeah, we did 12 of those, plus we're embarking on doing the crosswalk over top of 16th with artwork. But specifically the catwalks, we actually did a little art project where we had residents make these little dragonflies, and people painted them different colors, and we put them on the fences with the permission of the homeowner. But Marlborough also did a project with an organization called Sustainable Calgary, who I know you're familiar with, Vivian, and they did some small little art projects, but the city wouldn't sort of allow them to make them permanent, so many of them have kind of gone away, just due to the fact that it was not a permanent thing. So if you could turn that art project idea into something a little more permanent, work with the city on permitting and permissions and all of that sort of stuff, work with the residents on getting permission to work on those fences, I think those projects can happen. But sometimes they just take the easy way. Or the quick
Okay,
way.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Great discussion. Let's continue at the end of the session. We can stay on afterwards, but let's go to team 3 so that we can finish the main part on time. So thank you again, M team. Great job.